New Westminster Veterans Oral History Project. Today's date is December 3rd, 2001. The interviewee is Miss Geraldine Mercer with the RCAF Women's Division. Okay, Miss Mercer, what is your full name?
My full name is Geraldine Margaret Mercer.
And your date and place of birth?
I was born on July the 12th, 1924 in Clark's Harbour, Nova Scotia.
And can you tell me your marital status?
I am a widow as of 5 years.
5 years. And so what would be your maiden name?
My maiden name is Burrill, B-U-R-R-I-L-L.
Okay. And do you have any children?
I have, I'd say 6 children. I have 4 of our own.
Right.
And then we adopted 2 boys.
Oh, wow. And names and ages? Off the top of your head?
Okay. I'll just say I have a daughter living in Calgary. She's 54.
Okay.
A daughter 50 living in Langley. A daughter living in Stardust, and she would be 46, I think. Our son lives in Delta. His name is Jim, and he is 43. And my 2 adopted boys, Rob and Ron, they are 36 and 34, I think. It's close.
So where were your parents from?
My parents were from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, okay.
Descendants from Britain and Scotland.
Okay. How did you get from where you were born in Clark's Harbour to
Yarmouth?
New Westminster?
Oh, to New Westminster?
Yeah.
Well, in the process, it was serving in the RCF, and that's where I met my husband, who was from New Westminster.
Oh, okay.
And he lived here all his life.
Oh, okay.
Except for the war years.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, did you spend most of your growing up time in Clark's Harbour?
No, none of it in Clark's Harbour. That was my holiday retreat.
Oh, okay.
My home was in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay.
And Yarmouth was a very important town during the war because it was the more or less the gateway to the United States, the New England states, and it was the entrance to the Bay of Fundy, where submarines were known to have entered the Bay of Fundy.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when did you move to New Westminster?
1946.
Right.
I married and then came here just after our marriage.
Okay. Can you tell me what your current address is?
202 Blackman Street in the city of New West.
Okay, and have you, in New Westminster, have you always lived here?
I've lived here in the same house for 53 years.
Right on.
Good. Been in the city 55 years.
Okay. Okay. So what branch of the armed forces were you enrolled in?
RCF, Women's Division of the RCF.
And your rank and position?
I was called leading airwoman. It was just one step up from being when you first enlisted in basic training.
Oh, right. I see. Okay. So, when did you enroll in the armed forces?
I enrolled in 1942. On the summer of 42, I wasn't quite 18. You had to be 18 for a girl to enlist. I was 17 when I enlisted, and I just waited until I was 18.
Oh, okay. I see. And then was that in Yarmouth then?
That was in Yarmouth. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And how did your family feel about that?
Well, I already had a brother that had left for the RCF, and they were anxious about him. I'm not sure they shared the same anxiety about me because of the profession or the career that I was to go into.
Oh, so you knew when you enrolled what you were going to be doing?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so what did you enroll to be doing?
I chose to be a postal clerk. It was, we went down the list alphabetically, and by the time they got to the P's, I decided I'd better make a choice. So postal clerk was
right.
something that I was a little bit familiar with because my family had a post office in
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Okay. So your family had a store or something?
Not my immediate family, my cousins and my uncle
Right.
had a post office and store.
Oh, okay. So, why was it the RCAF as opposed to the Army or the Navy?
Well, most of the people that were my friends that were enlisting were in the RCAF, and it seemed to be an attraction. There was sort of a romance about the RCAF. And the town in 1940, 41 was filled with soldiers and Navy.
Right.
And so this was a little different.
Right. And so when you enrolled with friends?
No, I enrolled on my own. I responded to a poster on a federal building that said, "Your country needs you." And like advertising, I was taken in. I believed it. Very naive.
Oh, right. So in the end, how many years of service did you complete?
3.5.
3.5 years. Mm-hmm. And when were you discharged from duty?
1940, December 1945.
December 1945. Yeah. And that was where?
That was in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
Dartmouth. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you heard that Canada declared war on Germany, what sort of feelings, what sort of thoughts went through your head?
Well, I didn't understand fascism at all, and I didn't have any concept about what the war was all about. It was just something Canada did, and they needed people. The Depression had made an impact in the town I lived in, and there was instant money for the people that were enlisted. Yeah. And the economy of the town was picking up. The main industry was a cotton mill, and the mill made canvas and for tents and duffel bags and things for the army, and they had shifts throughout the day. I think there was 2 12-hour shifts at that time. And you worked 12 hours a day.
So people were kind of happy about the war starting then?
Well, it didn't do economically. It didn't do any harm.
Right.
Excuse me. The whole town changed. The houses that had been single family then became duplexes to provide accommodation for the servicemen's wives.
Right.
The main town was flooded with service people, both Army and Navy mostly.
And so, did you, when you joined, did you feel like you were going to be making a difference then?
I felt I was making a contribution to the country. It was sort of a patriotic thing. The day that I departed on the train, I had this feeling that maybe I wouldn't come back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought, so many I had heard about had not come back, and I thought, was that my fate?
Right.
Yeah.
Almost romantic thought.
Yeah.
So, okay, so when you departed on the train, where did you go?
Went to Halifax, and my first experience with the city, I had never seen a traffic light before.
No kidding.
And crowds of people. It was a little bit unnerving.
Yeah.
But I just stayed there overnight. Then took the train for Ottawa the following morning, and it was a 2-day trip.
To Ottawa.
To Ottawa from Halifax at that time.
And what, when you were in Ottawa, is that where you did your basic training?
Yes, Rockcliffe Station.
Right. Oh, right in Ottawa then.
Mm-hmm.
Just outside. So, take me through an average day of training camp.
Basic training?
Yeah.
Well, it was getting up early in the morning, going for drill.
Yeah.
Or exercises drill, and then coming back for breakfast. I guess I went to the post office for training, a little bit of training. The usual lunch, you'd have a break, and the afternoon might be more drill outside. Although highways or the roadways.
Mm-hmm.
That was summer and winter we did that.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the evening there was usually recreation or exposure to new things, such as going to different parts of the station to have an experience with a link trainer.
Oh, okay. Like cross training.
Yeah, this is where there was pilot training there.
Oh, I see.
They all trained. Their first part of their training was in a link trainer, and if you had an opportunity for an experience, you took it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. And so then the training that you got, there was basic training, there was your post office type training, things like that. What other, did you take any other types of training as well? Or did you go straight into the
When
service?
I was in Ottawa, I took advantage of going to, I think it's Carleton College, or
Carleton University.
To take training in typing.
Right.
At that time, typing was important.
Mm.
And I thought that might lead to future career.
That makes sense. So, where were you stationed for the, were you stationed in one place for the war, during the war, or a couple of places?
I was when my basic training was finished after a month, I was kept on at that same station.
At Rockcliffe?
At Rockcliffe. Right. And I was there a year and a half. A number of experiences there that were impressionable.
Well, why don't you tell me about some of those experiences?
Well, I think the most impressionable was the hospital that was located on the same part of the station that the women's division were on, and almost weekly there would be a train arrive at the Ottawa station, Union Station, and an ambulance would meet the train and bring these young men who had returned from overseas. They were called repats, repatriation, and they were taken to the hospital. And they would pass the post office. And each time I saw them pass, I would think, that could be my brother, or it could be my cousin, or who could it be? And I was, it's when I really felt that the war wasn't all the fun I was having, or all the glamour of the city. It was real. There was killing and there was injury, a lot of injury.
Right.
And that was a lasting impression.
I guess being set so far away from where the actual action was taking place, it must have been hard to imagine what it's like on the front lines.
Yeah.
But seeing those wounded people did that.
I actually didn't see the men. They were nearly all men, of course. Right. I didn't see them. We weren't allowed to go to the hospital. Had we been allowed, I would have been there. Then there were little experiences that one had, being guard of honor for Princess Alice, and being exposed to a parade where you could see the President of the United States, who was Roosevelt at that time, Mackenzie King, and near the cenotaph, and you wondered what it was all about. You were just part of the crowd.
Right. So what about working in the post office you must have met many different people coming in for letters.
Yes, this was the beginning of being exposed to people from all across Canada at that time. Later on, I was exposed to people from other countries, but not at that station. Right. And I got to know the map of Canada because you redirected mail, and you had to learn postal addresses. One of my first experiences was learning the difference between a street and an avenue.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yes, you heard stories about the most isolated little village beside a railway track, or people from the big cities. So you had across the spectrum of life in Canada, and the different nationalities too.
Yeah, I bet. So did you spend all your time in Rockcliffe then, or did you move from there to other stations?
From Rockcliffe, I went to Montjoly, Quebec.
Okay. And what was that, the same sort of?
They were nice. I used my limited school French. Montjoly was training for air gunners, and this was the opposite side of what I had seen in Ottawa, where the people were injured. Now I was seeing the people before they went overseas to be injured, to be casualties in the war. There were about 1,500 men and about 100 women, so I was in heaven being a 19-year-old.
Very popular.
It was a nice place to be, in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Is that where you met your husband too?
No, no. One opportunity I seized, so I had never been in an aircraft before. Of course, there was no such thing as commercial airlines. And I had an opportunity to go to my hometown for overnight, back in a cancel. And I loved sitting in the bubble and looking down at the countryside.
No kidding.
I wasn't afraid of heights at all, and it was fascinating. And arrived in my little town, but on the way, the motion of the aircraft combined with the odors of oil and gas, I became airsick. So that wasn't pleasant, but it was an experience. And then I began to, from the air, for the first time, had a concept of what the country looked like. You know, you just pick out the rivers and the lakes and the coastline. And
what an opportunity, eh?
Yeah, so you seize those when you have the chance.
And so would you go on leave quite often then, or?
Yes, every leave I left the station because it was an opportunity to go to New York City or from Ottawa I went to Niagara Falls and Toronto and Montreal and to Quebec City.
Just traveling.
So you used your time to either go home or to see the country where you could.
And so did you go with other people often or just on your own? How did that work?
Once in a while I'd go with another girl, but if they didn't, if what I wanted to do didn't appeal to them, I went by myself.
Right.
And there was a sense of protection because you were in uniform.
Right, even on leave.
Girls didn't feel threatened if you were in a uniform.
Oh, I see. I see. Did you find that you were treated with respect?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the civilians and...
Wherever you went.
Really, eh?
Yeah. There was sort of a status to wearing a uniform that was... They took advantage of that.
Yeah, I bet. And so you said you even went to places like New York. So how long were these leaves?
Well, usually they were 48 hours. Occasionally you had 72 hours. And then you'd have your annual leave, which was, I think it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks. If you had your 2 weeks, you went home.
Oh, I see.
To be with family, but 72 hours you could go to New York and spend a night or two.
Right.
You didn't sleep much.
No, I bet. Wow. Well, this is a good time. Tell me about, you said you wore your uniform all the time, even on leave. What was your uniform?
My uniform was the traditional uniform of the RCFWB. The first uniform I had was, the hat was sort of a flat hat, almost like a policeman's hat. And it was a kind that you could throw in a chair, you just sit on it, it didn't matter.
Right.
It had a scoop, and it was a nice, comfortable hat to wear. And then, for some reason, the model changed to a different type. It was perhaps more dressy, but it wasn't as comfortable to wear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the uniform was, in the summer you wore khaki color uniforms. And the rest of the year you wore Air Force blue, it's called.
Oh, okay. That's a nice blue. And
a nice heavy pair of brogues. Good walking shoes.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And then an average day in the post office, what would that be like?
Well, average day in Montjoly was kind of interesting. The Army brought the mail into the station, The station was connected to, or the post office was part of the same building where they had a jail. We called it the Clink, and the guardhouse. And the guardhouse, of course, is where you showed your ID each time you went through.
Right.
And the mail was brought in, and you sorted it and put it in what we called wickets and little boxes, and had it ready by noon hour for when the servicemen would come and gather their mail.
And were they pretty excited to get their mail?
There was a lineup before the wicket would even open. There was a great eagerness to get mail from home because these men were going to go overseas. They were just young. Most of them were 19 or 20. And they were leaving their families. And this mail was the connection between them and their family. And phone calls were hardly ever made, partly for security reasons. Sometimes there were telegraphs.
Right.
But mail was the connector with family and loved ones. And then the ones that got regular mail, they would be first in the lineup, and they'd get their letters, and they'd go off and by themselves, always by themselves, to read their letter.
Really?
Yeah, it was always interesting. And the odd one would put the letter in their pocket and wait until they were elsewhere. But some would read it on their way away from the post office. And then there were some people who would be at the end of the line. They would linger for a while, and sometimes they didn't get mail.
Right.
And I had a sort of an empathy with people that didn't get mail. I would wonder about their background. How come they weren't receiving mail? And they would linger, and they would want to talk. They seemed to need someone to express their feelings about how their course was going and how they felt about it. They wouldn't talk very much about home, but they would talk about themselves and what they were going to do. And this seemed to be important. And of course, the courses changes every 6 weeks or so. So you'd get another group of people, and that pattern was there. You'd still have these few that would stay behind. And as a young girl, though, I had to sort out whether they were there to flirt or whether they were there just to talk, because they needed to talk.
Right.
Yeah. And there were no other outlets for them on the station. There was Padre, of course, and but there were no counselors.
No, nothing like they have now, I'm sure.
No.
Yeah. So, in terms of the mail service, do you feel like it was good? Was it efficient?
Yes. It was very moving too when you would get a pack of mail come back from overseas, or somebody had gone missing and it was sent back to Canada. That was very moving.
Yeah.
Because you then had to forward that pack of mail back to the family.
Right.
And that was a difficult task.
Right. I bet. Huh. What about living conditions where you were in Saint Joly or even
Montjoly.
in Montjoly? Sorry.
Yeah.
Did you stay in tents or
No,
barracks?
you stayed in barracks. You shared a barrack facility with probably up to 12, 14 to a room. We had upper bunks and lower bunks. I always had the upper bunk, always. I didn't mind that. I was athletic. Living accommodations were very good. The food was not bad.
And were you eating a mess?
And because we had to have the meal ready by noon, we would have our lunch at 11:30 or before meal time.
Oh, I see. Right.
So we always went to the head of the line. It seemed like queue jumping, but nobody minded because they knew that we were going back to the post office to get their mail. So,
Right.
So we had.
And the food was good?
The food wasn't bad.
Yeah. I've heard some people talk about mutton.
Yeah.
But did you guys get mutton in Canada too, or was that just on the continent in Europe?
Well, no, you had a variety of food. It was not bad.
What about leisure time and social life in the evenings, things like that? Was there such thing?
Well, if I could compare Ottawa with Montreal, Ottawa was a lot of entertainment. You went into the city, or special bands would come to the station, but in Montreal, your leisure time was playing sports. For me, was playing sports, basketball and skating and hockey and skiing and
Right.
And dancing, of course. There was every evening, pretty near every evening, except around Christmas time. There was plenty of leisure time. And then we'd walk to the river. Montreal was on the banks of the St. Lawrence.
Okay.
Also, we'd go to a little town. At that time, it was a town called Rimouski. Rimouski, which is a French city. And there would be, this is where you would learn about U-boats coming up the St. Lawrence River.
Really?
And the Germans, so-called Germans, we assumed they were Germans, either selling cigarettes or acquiring cigarettes on the streets. So with all the security, there were Germans and people from the continent right on the streets of these little towns.
No kidding, eh? No kidding. Must have been a bit of fear, or not. No?
I didn't have any fear because I seemed to be removed from what would happen.
What about the people though in the towns? Were they nervous? Were people nervous?
Well, they spoke French, so and my French was limited, so I didn't understand.
Right.
If they were nervous, I didn't know.
Oh, I see. So were you ever injured or treated for injuries or sickness during the war?
No, I was very healthy.
Right. Okay. And when you went on leave, you said you just went to your family's then? Home if you went on extended leave or?
Extended leave to my home in Nova Scotia. But other leaves I took to go to various places.
Okay. What about your commanding officers? What were they like?
The one commanding officer in Ottawa was very professional, I'll use the term. I had been late once. I had gone to Montreal from Ottawa to put on my brother's wings, air gunner wings, when he graduated. And this was a great honor. And the train was a half hour late getting back to the city of Ottawa, and then there was another half-hour bus ride to the station. And I was reported late, and so paraded the next day before the commanding officer. And I was terrified. And explained that the train was late, but that didn't matter. In her mind, I was undermining the whole war effort by being a half hour late. And I was confined to barracks for a week. I washed pots and pans for a week, every night for a week, and then grease gathered on my arms. It was a half-inch thick on both arms. And it was confined to barracks, as they called it, and I wasn't very happy about that.
No, I bet.
And so I didn't have much respect for commanding officers on that station. But in Montreal, the commanding officer was a man, of course, and that's where I was when VE Day happened.
Oh, okay.
And the celebration, the commanding officer rode in a convertible, paraded around the station, and the drinks were free, and everyone was happy and hilarious, and it was a great day.
Right.
And that meant there wouldn't be, in our minds at that time, that meant that the air gunner training would be over. What we didn't know, of course, was Japan still had to be dealt with.
Right.
So, but I left the station shortly after that and went to Moncton. and then to Penfield Ridge.
Oh, really? Until you were discharged there, then?
No, I was several months at Penfield Ridge. And that's where I met my husband, Ray Mercer, from New Westminster. And it was summer when we were there, and
where is that?
Penfield Ridge is just west of St. John.
Okay.
Maybe a half-hour's drive, I think.
Okay.
I don't believe the station's there now.
Okay, go ahead.
War bonds were something that most service people acquired. I'm not sure why they acquired them, but the opportunity was there to get a war bond, and you kind of looked at that as money in the bank. Something, I think for those that went overseas, it was sort of a fund that they would have when they returned. And otherwise it would go to their families, of course. And war bonds were easy to acquire. You had to pay docked in order to buy them. And of course, when we were to be engaged, my husband, I think he got $1.30 a day. I was getting $1.10.
Right.
And that wasn't much to buy a diamond.
Dear me.
So we cashed a war bond, bought the ring. And shortly after that, I was sent to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and then a few months later, he was sent to Ottawa to Uplands.
Okay.
Airport. And then at Dartmouth, I was discharged and went back to my hometown and waited until he received his discharge. And then he came to Yarmouth, and we were married. And what I had done was to arrange to have a next of kin in New Westminster, because that meant I would not be paying train fare to come out here. And since I was to be married and move here anyway, that was acceptable.
Right.
And,
I see. Wow. Is there like one memory or experience that stands out the most about your time at war, or a couple of memories?
Well, the one with the hospital was the most impressionable. That one stood out most.
Right.
The other one, working in the post office, was hearing the news that people weren't coming back, that they were injured, or they were sent to their homes injured, and you were tuned into that. You were always tuned into where these young men were going, and that made a great impression. The flip side of that, of course, is the opportunity for experiences that you wouldn't have had you not been in the services.
Right.
Travel being the big one. I had the opportunity to go to Maple Leaf Gardens, watch hockey games, and Stage Door Canteen in New York, and all those places that were significant to entertainment.
Right. Well, it'd be good to see a hockey game in the 40s, hey?
Yeah, spent New Year's Eve in Maple Leaf Gardens one time.
Really?
It was a disaster. I've never seen so much. Another experience was being very naive. A group wanted to go to Hull, Quebec, to a nightclub, so I chose to go with the group. And I didn't smoke, but I always held a cigarette and had a drink, but I never drank it. But that's the thing you did. And so you sit there with this group, and then all of a sudden everybody's excited, and people are rushing out of the building, and I'm sitting there all by myself, and the place is being raided.
No kidding.
By the police. I didn't understand why. So after everyone had cleared out, I thought, well, maybe I'd better go out too. So I went and found my way back to Ottawa and then back to Rockford.
You ever find out why it was raided?
Never did. Hull, Quebec, in those days was quite different than it is now, of course. And you had to cross that bridge by the Parliament buildings.
Right.
The Parliament buildings.
Yeah.
And they were open on Sunday, and you went to movies there on Sunday. And of course, I had the experience too of going into the Parliament buildings and learning what the Parliament was all about, and seeing the War Memorial book where the pages were turned once a day for veterans from the First World War.
Right.
That was an experience.
I bet, yeah.
And then the Parliament buildings had another significance for me because relatives of mine had been burned in the library when the Parliament Library was on fire.
Oh, okay.
Way back when. And he was one of the few lives that was lost. And he was a relative of my father's.
Right. So you briefly touched on VE Day, and tell me again what it was like, the celebrations and the feeling in the air, you know?
The feeling in the air was such sudden. When you were in Montreal, you didn't hear the day-to-day news.
Right.
You just did your job, and you saw the planes taking off daily and landing, and you heard a little bit of gossip, but you never really felt the impact of the war as it was being waged in Europe. And so when the news came, it was startling, and you really didn't grasp what significance it would have for you as a person who was conditioned
Right.
to the way of life.
Right.
And it was obvious that there was a great freedom being felt, and exhilaration. And but for me personally, I guess I was just observing what other people were feeling rather than having personal feelings. I suppose I felt, well, what do I do now? You know, what does this mean for me? But nothing more beyond that.
What was it like going back home, being discharged, going back home, seeing your family again, knowing you're now back a civilian?
Well, it was just a visit because my intention was to be married and to come to New Westminster. So it was just one more visit. What I hadn't realized at the time is that the train trip from Nova Scotia to New Westminster would be 7 days, and that one just didn't go on a weekend pass back to your home.
Right.
There was a great distance, and without air travel and slow train travel, that hadn't registered. But I was going to start a new life in a new city, so that was the choice.
Right. So what were the attitudes of the people who hadn't been in the army, who hadn't been in the military, towards veterans like you right after the war?
After the war?
Yeah.
Well, I have to relate to New Westminster.
Right, that's right.
And so it's trying to reestablish a new kind of life. And all young servicemen from all the services were looking toward reestablishing their lifestyle in the city. What were they going to do? They were looking for jobs, of course.
Right.
That employment was the big thing particularly for the men. For me, it was trying to, where I had been living with hundreds of people, now all of a sudden I was somewhat alone, feeling alone, so far from home, and just with my husband and his family. And so it was looking forward to establishing a place where we could start a family. And then my husband chose to coach lacrosse, box lacrosse, and basketball, and the Y was a prominent place on Royal Avenue after the war. And so much about his spare time was taken up with those kinds of things. And I just went along until we started a family and then established a home.
Right. And 4 kids, and then 6 kids.
Well, shortly. The war, the reason for the war was always something that I always questioned.
Right.
Why the war? And I continue to question, because those years being exposed to young people being injured always made me ask, why should there be war? And why should there not be money in peacetime? And yet there was ample monies for the military in wartime. And because of that experience, I was, you could still call it patriotism, but I was still eager to work at whatever peace meant to me. And that meant being involved in the community, in schools, and so on.
Right, and so that's what you did then?
I did, and then later on, after the children were older, I became interested in issues of justice.
Right.
Social agencies and so on.
Okay. Do you think that the veterans have been treated well upon returning home?
To my knowledge, they were.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about you? Do you belong to any veterans organizations?
No, I chose not to, because when the RCFWD, Women's Division had their reunions, they turned out to be celebrations, a party.
Right.
Had they taken up a cause, some sort of a justice issue or some cause, I would have been glad to be part of it. But I wasn't interested in partying. That was not my nature.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, what sort of organizations do you belong to then?
Well, for years I belonged to director of the Canadian Mental Health Association locally. Very active in the church that I attend. Supported lots of them, but not actually members of them, except the mental health. And part of the reason for that is because our eldest daughter had a slight disability, and that natural gravitation.
Exactly. Right. What does it mean to you to be a veteran?
It only means something to me to be a veteran in the context of today's global village, I'll call it scenario.
Right.
The fact that there is war now, even though it's a different form of war, I now ask the question, why is there war? Where is the injustice? And I've also learned how to analyze the media, to listen to what would be termed propaganda. You know, I have the experience of forgotten the term when yes, I've learned to understand what censorship is, to appreciate the freedom of expression and choice, freedom of choice, to watch more closely what happens politically, and laws that are being made. I've been involved in supporting of refugees and groups that struggle to gain some sort of human rights. And so that's what war means. It means a continual struggle for the better things of life. For everybody. As much as you can.
Right, yeah.
You do your thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you observe Remembrance Day in any way?
I have usually observed by just going to the local ceremonies, but this last one, I, in a sense, boycotted the armories because you were required to have your ID, and I, after having 3.5 years of having to carry an identification card, and I was just a number. I was not going to do that again. So I chose to go to this church across the street rather than show my ID card.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah. It was the removal of a freedom.
Right.
That I didn't appreciate.
Right. Right. Do you still maintain contacts or friendships with people from your service years?
Yes, I have over the years. Still have friends in Quebec. No, a friend in Quebec. One in New Brunswick, and one in Penticton. All the rest have died.
Oh, really?
My Christmas card list is down from 50 down to 3.
And you still talk to them and stuff, or?
2 of them.
Yeah.
The one in Quebec I don't converse with except at Christmas time.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much the interview. Unless there's something that you feel I've missed or that you'd like to say before we complete the interview.
No, I think that covers.
You got it?
Yeah, I think it's
good.
Complete.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Mercer.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate
it's a privilege.